Fantastic. Hi, everybody. How are you
Hello.
today? Hope you're well. My name is Marissa, and we've got Jess over here. I don't know which side of the computer she's on for you, but she's waving. And before we get started, we just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this workshop, so for your privacy and security, we have turned off the cameras and microphones other than our own. If you don't mind being on camera, you're welcome to leave yours on, but this will be posted and shared as a workshop for others to see at some point. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them out in our chat, and we will have a question and answer period at the end where Chantal, our facilitator, will be super happy to address everything. If anyone has any access needs, please in the chat box let us know, and we'll do our very best to accommodate. We want to send out a huge shout out to Doris, who's our wonderful volunteer, who's helping us with all this back-end technical aspects of the workshop today. So thank you, Doris. We so appreciate you. We're really excited about this workshop on reducing food waste in the kitchen. This workshop is leading up to a very exciting project for us called the Compost Learning Hub at York Region Food Network. So this initiative is there to provide opportunities for folks to connect with nature, to reflect on our relationship with waste, and use compost as a way to reduce our impact on the environment. At a municipal level, food waste is expensive to process, and when it enters the landfill, it creates greenhouse gases. And of course, we want to make it clear that this is not solely an individual or household issue. According to a Carbon Majors report of 2017, 100 companies are responsible for 71% of industrial greenhouse gas emissions since 1988. At YRFN, our mission is to work on this issue through advocacy and policy work, as well as education and grassroots work within our community. Individually, though, when we're able to learn more about the issues and build a respectful relationship with the land, we are better equipped to tackle climate change from both a personal and systemic level.
Yeah, and for our Compost Learning Hub, we'll have educational workshops and hopefully in-person tours in the spring of 2021, but obviously depending on the COVID situation then. But until then, we'll have workshops through these online forums. And so although we might be connecting virtually right now just because of COVID, I encourage everyone just to take a moment and let's just reflect on the history of the land that you're currently tuning in from. Marissa, Chantal, Doris, and I were currently on Williams Treaty and Treaty 3 territories, and that's traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Wendat peoples. And we have our neighbors, the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, as our closest Indigenous community, and they're about an hour and 15 minutes northeast of us. And so in the same way that learning, a person's name is necessary as a first step to really developing a relationship with them, land acknowledgements can be a vital first step in learning who lived and continues to live on this land. But first steps obviously need to be followed by many more steps and many more actions. And so some questions that I've been asking myself, and I just wanted to share with you, are what does it mean to be a treaty person? And what are the principles and the responsibilities that I have and that we have in relation to each other as human beings and to this land that sustains us? And then how can we show our appreciation to the land through our everyday actions? So as we get into the content of this workshop, let's just continually investigate and bring to the forefront these questions. And so today we have our very own Chantal McCallum teaching us some tips and tricks for using the entire plant from roots to shoots. So when we're cooking, and in this way, we say thank you to our food and ensure that nothing gets wasted. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and let's see what Chantal is going to share with us today. So hang tight while I get this set up for everyone.
Hello, my name is Chantal McCallum, and I'm part of the Kitchen Food Hub team at Your Kitchen Food Network. And I'm so pleased to be here today. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and your life to be here for the Roots and Shoots workshop. I'd also would like to thank Jessica and Marissa for putting this together, for creating a series, an opportunity for you to think about how you're cooking in your kitchen, but also what you're doing with your roots and your shoots, those leafy greens, and which also means we're talking about carrots, and as well as those carrot tops that are in this bowl. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how you're going to use your root vegetables, those carrots, those potatoes, maybe something a little different than you've done before. And also, how can you use these beet greens and these carrot tops? Did you ever wonder how you could use those and that you can actually eat these leafy greens? Now, so why would you care to do that, right? I mean, these are all things that typically we cut off from the beet, for instance, and we toss these away into our compost or our green bin. The same goes with our carrots, right? If you have carrots with carrot tops, and I've cut them off already, they're little shorty ones though. Normally this is the same thing. We would throw these carrot tops into our green bin or our compost. Wouldn't even think about it. And did you know that you can eat carrot tops and you can eat beet greens? And in fact, carrot tops are pretty versatile. So I'll show you how to do that today. We've got 3 things that we're making today. We're going to make a carrot and beet slaw salad with an orange dressing. The next thing we're going to do is a pesto with the carrot tops and a little bit of parsley. And then that's going to lead us to highlighting our potato and making potato gnocchi, as well as actually there's a 4th thing, but we're not going to make that thing, but I'm going to talk to you what you're going to do with your peel, with your potato peel, once we get started with the potato gnocchi. So that's what we're going to cover today. I'm super excited to be doing this in my own kitchen, by the way. So welcome to my home kitchen. And this is where I cook all kinds of great things for myself and the family. So I'm really super excited to be doing this. Now, the other question that I had come into my mind is also about the why would we bother doing this? Okay, have you noticed that your green bin is filling up really quickly? I know mine is, and this may or may not be a problem of yours. But when I started looking at how to use all of the vegetable, the root and the shoots, and when I started looking at that, then I realized that my green bin quantity was becoming less and less. I do have an outdoor composter too. And so that was getting really full as well. And we certainly have a problem in our world with all this edible food waste that is actually being wasted. So how can we use this? Because these are nutrient-filled components of the shoots, for instance. Our beet leaves and our carrot tops have nutrition that we can benefit from. And also we can limit our food waste as well, because these things are actually edible. Okay, so now that we've introduced what we're going to do today, let's get started. What I'd like to start with today is with the salad. I'm going to show you how to do the salad. I'm going to bring down the laptop screen so you can actually see me doing this. It's a little bit different when we're working from home than in our wire-fin kitchen. So we need the carrots and our beet from this bowl. We're going to put the foliage, the leaves aside for the moment. The other thing that I have, I'd like you to start thinking about this, is that I have a bowl here of food scraps already started. These are food scraps that I'm going to use to make vegetable stock later. So what I often do with these is I'll put them in either a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware container and keep that in the freezer so I can pop these pieces in. And by the way, there's going to be another Roots and Shoots workshop where you will be having an opportunity to learn how to make a vegetable stock. So start saving these bits of vegetable scraps. So now the beet end, which is, we're going to cut this part off. Make sure you can still see what I'm doing, and then put that into the bowl. The same for where the shoot's attached to the root. I'm going to remove that part as well. It's okay to have some beet pieces into your vegetable stock. I promise the water will not turn completely pink, although that is a concern, isn't it, with our beets? Like, what do we do with the skin? Can we eat it? Yes, we can. We can eat the skin. We don't need to remove the skin. We can actually keep it on. The skin does have a little bit of a bitter flavor. That sometimes is the challenge with the skin on vegetables. However, you balance this out with other ingredients that you put in your recipe. So we're going to keep the skin on for this. Same for the carrots. I've actually scrubbed the carrots clean and their skin is still on it. Now, if you don't want the skin, you can remove it and then add it to your vegetable scrap bowl to make vegetable stock. I'm cutting these ends off and putting them in there. See, nothing is going to waste. I love this. And it's really about planning this in your kitchen. Just thinking about what am I going to do with every bit of food and having those little bowls to hold those items in. Okay, I have my bowl and I have my trusty grater. So if you do this by hand, I'm not going to do it in the bowl, but I'm going to do it on the cutting board. So I'm going to start grating the carrot. Now, if you have a food processor, which I do right behind me, but I wanted to demonstrate this a little bit differently with all that, without all the noise, you can use a food processor. But you would use the grate at the top, the food processor. You would use this piece, not the paddle piece that you'll see shortly when we make the pesto. So you would use this to grate, which is super uber fast. Okay, so once you've grated your vegetables, you're gonna place those inside. You're gonna start to add to your bowl. Grated carrots. You see, carrots and beets go really well together. And the reason for that is because carrots are sweet and beets are earthy, a little bit sweet, but also a little bit bitter too. So you want to balance out those flavors, and which is why carrots are so great. I tend to add more carrots than beets in this salad so that I can balance out the flavors. And you'll see we'll continue to build on those flavors as we make this salad. Because taste is king. That's what it's all about. All right, I'm going to keep grating. Okay, I've done the grating. Look at all this purple goodness. All right, everything goes into your bowl. And if you haven't grated beets before or worked with beets before, your hands will be pink, but they will not remain that way. Unlike if you had used a marker and had marker on your hands, like this isn't something that's going to stay on your fingers. You'll easily be able to wash it off by the end of the day. You'll just have a slight pink hue to your hands. And of course, beets make everything else turn pink too, like the carrots, slightly. Now at this point, you can add more carrots if you'd like. And once you taste the salad, you'll have a better idea. I was thinking of adding some feta cheese to this. It's actually a great combination. You don't need to add feta cheese, but you can. And it will add a bit of a salty flavor as well as some tangy flavor to your salad. So we have these beet greens. We're going to toss those in there before we make our salad dressing. As you look at the beet green, there is a purple stem. The purple stem is pretty hardy. It is best, I have found, when it's cut into pieces and put into a soup. So what you can do here, as you start thinking about how you plan your menu in the week, if you're buying beets and you know you're going to have these stems, you could plan to make a soup. And I have this calendar on my refrigerator where I put the items that I'm going to make. And that would be one of the ways you could start thinking about planning whatever you're picking up. So these stems I'm going to put aside, and I'm going to be chopping these up and then storing them in the refrigerator so that I know they're going to go into a soup. And here are our beet leaves. They're ready to go. So what we do here, now you can eat these raw, like I have said previously. They do have a slight bitter flavor. One of the things about our palate is that we're not so used to bitter things like it used to be in the good old days. And if you're eating any edible wild plants that you can find in nature, you will find that those bitter flavors can easily be, you can start to create more of a flavor profile for bitters again if you start to include them in your diet. And bitters are really good for us. And so add these beet leaves to your salads. If you want to, I'm making strips, but if you want to do that, make them smaller, you can. And here we go. Now we have our beet leaves to add to our slaw. Now, because these are a little bit bitter, we will need to make a salad dressing that will complement our salad and all the different earthy and sweet and bitter flavors. Now I'm going to add also a little bit of dill. Dill and beets together is great. And I do have a special love for dill. Okay, dill is chopped into the salad. Beautiful. Now the only thing that's missing would be the feta cheese. Let's make the dressing first, and then I'm going to grab the feta cheese, and then we'll toss it in here. It'll really give it a nice contrast of color too. Okay, now it's time to make the dressing. I have some red wine vinegar. We're going to add a couple of teaspoons. I make salad dressings all the time, so I tend not to measure. But one of the things that I'm going to teach you, if you don't already know, if you add a little bit of an acid, like vinegar, when we have it, I like them in mason jars because then I can mix it all in one jar, and it can be any kind of jar. Then you add a little bit of acid, which is the vinegar in this case. Sometimes it can be lemon juice. There's also, I have a couple of teaspoons of Dijon mustard. This one happens to be grainy. You can use any kind of Dijon mustard. And so there's a couple of teaspoons of that. And then we have orange juice. Remember I mentioned at the beginning, we're making an orange dressing. And I freshly squeezed the orange juice because I had these lovely oranges I could do that with. It tastes so much better too. So there's a 1/4 cup of orange juice, and that's going to go in with the red wine vinegar and the Dijon. And lastly, almost lastly, we need a little bit of salt. And this can be, you can salt to taste, a little bit of pepper. And then oil. So I have some olive oil here. You can use light tasting oil. So I'm going to keep pouring until it's approximately 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil. As I look at, now I have some orange juice in here too, but I like to do usually a ratio of 2 parts oil to 1 part acid. But because there's orange juice that sweetens things up, I'm going to do a half and half. And we'll see what it tastes like. I encourage you to experiment with salad dressings in this way, and you will have the recipe as well for this if you prefer to follow the recipe. So we're going to shake it up. Now we need to taste it. And let's see what it tastes like. It needs a little something. a little bit more pepper. So the trick that I've learned while cooking is if something tastes a little bit too tart, add a little more pepper. And it will change that tartness. It will mellow it out nicely. The orange juice is there to add a little bit of sweetness, which also will help with the acidity. Okay, that made a huge difference. It's remarkable. If you do this experiment, add the pepper, taste it again. It's completely different. So this has mellowed out the flavors beautifully. It's nicely salted. It's got a beautiful flavor. Now it's time to pour it onto the salad dressing. Now we're going to add this now because it's really great to allow this salad to let it rest with the dressing for 15 to 20 minutes before you consume it. And this will keep well in your refrigerator for a couple of days even, because they're root vegetables and they're fantastic, that they can take in all the salad dressing and last in your refrigerator for a little bit. So then you can have this for tomorrow's lunch or tomorrow's dinner. Feta cheese. So it's the only thing I'm missing. I know I keep talking about it. Now, you don't have to put it in here. If there is also another, you can use a non-dairy alternative if that's something that is important to you and that your needs based on your dairy needs or non-dairy needs. Or you can also add a little bit of nutritional yeast for the vegans or vegetarians who love to use nutritional yeast. It adds a really nice, nutty, cheesy flavor, which is a nice addition to the salad. So I'm going to grab the feta cheese. Okay, here it is. Grab a tiny chunk of feta cheese, or lots if you like lots. And there we go. Yes, the feta will turn pink. I love it. I love pink food. So now you can allow this to sit for 15 minutes. We're going to leave it aside. And the salad is complete. One last look. Doesn't that look amazing? Now, as we finish up with the salad, I'd like to mention that when you buy a bunch of beets, there's 3. And so for this salad, you'll want to use 1. What will you do with the other 2? What if you made some beet chips? I made these yesterday. This is so cool. I made these yesterday. They are actual crispy beet chips. So what I did was I used a mandolin to make the beet pieces nice and thin. And then I put them in the oven at 350 degrees. What you need to do before they go in the oven is add a little oil, salt and pepper, lay them nice and flat on a piece of parchment paper in the oven. And then you'll need to flip them over at some point. After about 10-15 minutes, you flip them over to the other side, then they continue to cook a little bit. And then you get these beet chips. This is just a wonderful way of doing something with beets, potentially with those extra 2 beets that you'll have. The other thing, I mean, there's so many options of things you can do with beets. If you like pickled beets, those can be done either refrigerator pickles or an actual recipe for canning with beets. So you have options for what you can do with that. Oh, roasted beets is another great one that I love. And putting those in the oven, and you can keep the peel on while you toss them in there and roast them with other vegetables, either potatoes or carrots. So again, balancing out the sweetness, adding sweetness with the beets because it's got that earthy flavor. So those are some of the other ideas that you can explore as well. Now that we've got this salad, now we need to get ready to make this pesto. So I'm going to explain to you how we're going to make this. Now, I believe that the best thing to do with carrot tops is pesto. Here they all are, stems and all. Now, have you ever tasted these? They taste like carrot, would you believe, as well as they taste a little bit like parsley too. So they are a wonderful combination to include with other. I have some curly parsley that I'm going to add to this to bulk up our carrot pesto. You can, or carrot top pesto, you can use only carrot tops. In this instance, I thought I'd like to add a little parsley to it since I have it available from my refrigerator. You'll also need some garlic. A food processor or blender can be used to make pesto, or you can use a mortar and pestle. The mortar and pestle way will take you it's the longest way to make your pesto. If you have access to your food processor, the bowl is larger. A blender, the bowl is thinner. It's harder to make pesto. Not impossible, but just a little more challenging. So food processor is your best option for making pesto. What you're going to do here, this particular recipe has a seed or nuts to add to the pesto. So what I've done is toasted sunflower seeds. I love sunflower seeds in a pesto. You can also toast pumpkin seeds. You can toast walnuts if you'd like. Again, those are really good seeds and nuts to use for pestos. You don't also need to add nuts at all or seeds. It definitely adds a lovely roasted flavor to your pesto, which is why I love adding a little bit of seeds. And also, just to note, one other thing is pestos don't need to be made with basil, right? As you can see, you can use any other green to add even to these carrot top pestos, carrot top pieces. So if you have some kale, if you have some spinach, raw spinach, you can incorporate that and add this to your pesto too. So really it's what you have available in your kitchen or what you'd like to experiment with. Now the next ingredient is a little bit of salt. And best to err on the side of less, and then you can always add if you need it. And a little bit of pepper. Now some pestos will have a little bit of lemon juice in it, which you can add to this pesto. Lemon, I love lemon in pesto. It adds just a lovely brightness of flavor. Okay, so half a lemon. And lastly, we'll get the oil ready. Now the oil won't go in right away. We need to grind up all of these leafy greens before we start adding the oil, because the oil will be streamed into the food processor. Okay, bowls in. Okay, we're going to turn this thing on. First, we're going to pulse it slightly to start moving all of the bits around. And then we can leave it on for a little bit at low speed. What you want to see happen is the breakdown of all of the greens, but not into a paste. You just want to start to see little pieces of everything come together. Okay, here we go. We're like 4. Okay, that looks really good now. We're going to put the top back on. So we're going to need to continue using the food processor as we begin to stream approximately half a cup of oil. Again, here you have some choices. You can use extra virgin olive oil. You can use sunflower oil, which is very, very neutral in flavor. It all depends what flavor profile you want. If you're using olive oil, you're going to taste a bit of the olive oil along with the pesto, but if you don't like the taste of olive oil, you could do sunflower oil. Okay, so now we're going to turn this back on. And now you're going to leave the food processor on while we stream the oil in. Yes. Okay, so now, as you look at the pesto, it has a lovely glistening color and texture from the oil. And now we can actually, it's pourable, right? You can actually see it moving. This is perfect. One of the things that I like to add to pesto is a little bit of nutritional yeast, like I talked about before. And nutritional yeast, again, is that nutty, cheesy flavor that gets added into pestos. And often pestos would have maybe some Parmesan cheese. So let's taste this and see what, well, I'll taste it. I'll let you know how it is. It needs a little something. It needs a little more seasoning. So a little more salt. Not very much, but a little bit. Salt does make food taste more like itself. So it's a really good thing to have the opportunity to add a little bit of salt without going overboard, of course. And a little bit more pepper. And it has a very mild garlic flavor. So if you like a lot of garlic, then add a bit more to it. It's so amazing how well this has come together. These pestos and end up with something absolutely delicious. Sometimes that I can't reproduce again because I use so many different types of greens, whatever I have available. Okay, this pesto is going to go into this jar. It will keep well in your refrigerator. This will last actually for a good 7 to 10 days in your refrigerator. In our family, we tend to use pesto on a lot of things and in a lot of things. It becomes a seasoning, actually. We would add pesto even to either a pizza crust, or when we make pizza, we can put teaspoons of pesto on the surface, just little bits here and there for pops of flavor, which is fun. And so it goes onto the pizza before it goes into the oven, or on the crust to make it a pesto pizza, or a pesto flatbread. The other way that we use this is I'll make a bean dip or a hummus, and I'll add a teaspoon or two into that mixture. Also really lovely. What else do we use? There's so many different uses for pesto, and I'm sure you have others as well that you'll find use for this pesto for sure. But we will be using it today, so I'm going to keep it out for our next step, which is for the gnocchi as our flavor there. So any pasta, we'll love pesto. So that concludes our salad, our beet carrot slaw, and our pesto in the jar. Now we're ready to make the next part of our meal, which is gnocchi, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do with the potato skins as well. Okay, well now it's time for potato gnocchi. Now that we've made the salad and we've made our pesto, we're ready to make our main course. I'm going to show you what I've done. So I baked some russet potatoes. These are ready to prepare to make the gnocchi. Chef Maxine Knight gave us a recipe a couple of years ago in the Wirefin kitchen, and I've been using that recipe for the last couple of years. It is absolutely amazing. It's just such a great recipe. Now, I've watched a lot of videos on how to make potato gnocchi, and there's a lot of different ways that you can make it. Do you add eggs? Do you not add eggs? What potatoes do you use? There's lots of conversation around that and a lot of options. So you get to choose how you want to do that if you want to explore some other videos. What I'm going to show you today is what Chef Maxine shared with us. And as far as I can tell, this is a lovely potato gnocchi recipe. The gnocchi is very soft and pillowy, and that's what you want to get. And the water's boiling behind me as I'm preparing for the next step after, when we're ready to cook the gnocchi. So I wanted to make sure the water was boiling. So that's something for you to consider when you're making this, is make sure you've got a pot of water on the stove with some salt added to it. And then get that ready so it's nice and hot, so that when you're ready, when you've made the gnocchi and you're ready to cook it, everything is ready for you. So this is a russet potato that is uncooked, and this is a white potato. The difference, you may not be able to see the difference from here, but russet potatoes are dry, meaning that they don't have a lot of moisture, and they are a very starchy potato. So russets are perfect for mashed potatoes. They are less perfect for things that you want to hold in place, like a salad, like a potato salad. This is where your white potato or yellow potato would be best for that, because it has a higher moisture and less starch. There's a lot of debate around which potatoes to use to make gnocchi. The reality is russet potatoes are your best option. Will it still work with a waxy potato? Yes, it will. I've made it with both. If you use russets, and if you've never made gnocchi before, trust me, just start with russets. You want to have a success. So your russet potato will ensure that you do, and it will always work out well. And because you don't need to add as much flour to soak up all the moisture of a waxy potato. So russets rule. They're amazing. So you want to bake the russet potato, because if you cook it in water, then you're adding water to your potato, which we just talked about. What makes ideal a russet potato is the fact that it has low moisture. And we talked about at the beginning how we're going to use the entire vegetable. So we're going to have skins here left over once we cut these potatoes in half. Now I've cooked these in advance and refrigerated them. Now you can cook them and use them on the same day, and then you'll have warm potato, which is very good when you're making gnocchi when your potato is warm. If it's not, it will still work. I was planning ahead so that we could make this today. And I have made gnocchi with cold potatoes and warm potatoes, and it still works. So I see on this potato there's a little bit of a spoiled bit that must go into the green bin. Of all the things we created today, this is all that's being thrown away and put into the green bin. We've done well. Something to be proud of. And now it's time to scoop out the potato. Now, potato skins is what I like to do when I make gnocchi. So you'll want to scoop out 2 cups of potato and leave a portion of the base of the potato so that you're not left with too thin of a shell. And then we're going to keep these potato skins. Either they get to be cooked on the same night, or I'm not going to show you how to make the potato skins today, but I want you to consider that this could be another meal the following day. You can hang on to these and put those in the refrigerator. And then on the day you want to cook them, and I will include a recipe, by the way, so you have an idea of how to make these and the rest and the temperature you need in the oven and all of that. There's so many different ways that you can make potato skins. It's endless, all the different inserts. So I'm going to put these skins aside, deal with those tomorrow. So we need 2 cups of potato for this recipe. There are a couple of options here, and you may already be familiar with what we call a ricer. So it's barrel shaped. You would stick your potato in, you'd squeeze it, and then underneath would come out the potato, but it's nice and fine in texture. And that's what you want to have happen when you're making gnocchi, is you want that texture. The other option is a grater. So we have, our large cheese grater. I find this one's a little bit large. Now this side, what you would use for maybe Parmesan cheese, it's a little bit smaller, but it makes a smaller texture like a ricer would. So you have that option. Now the technique in which I use is I use a flat hand over the potato. So this way, I want to avoid risking injuring myself. If some of the larger potato bits sneak in there, it's okay. Okay, grating is complete. Now we have 2 cups. And these are the leftover potato pieces we have. They'll go with the potato skins over here. You can use a bowl or the counter to mix everything together. 1 teaspoon of salt over the potato mixture. Then 2 egg yolks. You can save the egg white for adding to any eggs you're cooking, and put these aside. Now we have eggshells, which is another thing that we can use by letting them dry up, and they can be added. They add nutrients and minerals to plants. So something to consider as well. When I do dry the eggshells, I actually leave them out on the counter in a container, and they just dry up in a few days. And here's our yolks. Let's mix those up a little bit. And then you're gonna pour the yolk mixture on top of the potato mixture. Now to mix this together, I'll use a little bit of a spoon. You can use your hands. And then you have 1.25 cups of white flour. You will add the flour in in bits of quantity. Add a little bit to start, and then get your hands in there and start mixing. And just keep adding the rest of the flour as you go along. Once you've absorbed all the flour, let's add some more. There we go. Now, once you've incorporated the flour, in this case, what I'm finding today, and that's why I don't always add all the flour in at once, you just need to gauge, how is the dough doing? A little bit of kneading, of course, not like when you're making bread dough, but certainly a little bit of kneading is required to incorporate the flour into the potato mixture. The more flour you add, the denser your gnocchi will be. Now, the russet potato, because of its, remember, high starch content, it will aid in making sure that the gnocchi mixture remains nice and fluffy. I have a bread knife to cut off parts of the log that I've created with the dough. So then you want to take then a piece of this. Now you're going to need some extra flour for your surface here. A little wee bit, not a whole lot, just to help with the rolling of the dough. Now you're going to start rolling it until it's into a 3/4 of a diameter. Now you want to use your palms. You can use both hands as it starts to stretch out. If you push too hard, you will squish it, and then it will look like this. So we want to avoid that and continue to lightly roll the dough in between your hands. Ah, we have a visitor. That would be Cleo, our cat. She must have awakened from her nap and coming for a visit. And so this is approximately 3/4 of a diameter. And then you can start cutting 1-inch pieces. Again, there's no perfect way of doing this. Have some fun. That's what I love about making gnocchi. It really is an enjoyable process where you just get to take your time, have some fun in the kitchen, get those helping hands to work with you. I'm going to grab a fork to show you. I'm always working on this technique, but you know when you see gnocchi, it has the lines across it. So once you've cut it into a piece like this, there's a couple ways you can do it. I've seen Jamie Oliver, celebrity chef, not to do what I'm about to show you. He takes a piece of the dough and then he sticks his finger right in the middle. And then there's an indentation in the dough. And he says, that's just perfect. And it is. It's a great way of doing it as well. And as I've offered community partner food skills workshops, we often make gnocchi so much fun. But again, we're so many folks doing this together. And although we haven't been doing that for a while together, we do look forward to doing this again. And this is what often happens, we just make an indentation. The theory behind the lines across the gnocchi is that the pesto or tomato sauce will stick to the gnocchi, or whatever you're adding to your gnocchi will stick that much better. And that's why. But it also looks really pretty too. So we have this one. And then if you want to do it and you want to do the lines, but you don't have the wooden board, and pardon me as escapes me the name of this. There must be somebody who knows is going to be watching this video. You can take the gnocchi and practice with a fork where you're pushing it on the back of the fork. I've seen it done a couple of different ways. You push it on the back of the fork and you keep rolling it down until you have, there you go, see, little lines. Now, if we did it the other way, it takes some practice, I'm telling you, to do it this way. Or you might be really good at this. And then we have another one. Look at those, they're so cute. And we keep rolling them this way. We can do some with little dents in them, whatever you want to do. You can actually even make some of these gnocchi pieces smaller if you prefer. And then we keep going. Your best bet when you're making gnocchi, because I told you that I would discuss this with you at the beginning about what if you don't want to cook it right away? It's often a question that I get asked. And it's okay if you don't want to cook it right away. Actually, this is the best time when you have rolled it out and cut it into pieces. This would be the best time for you to add some flour to all of the gnocchi so they don't stick together, and just a very little bit of flour. And then put it on a pan with some parchment paper that you have enough space in your freezer that you can pop that pan in, and then make sure they freeze individually on that pan overnight. And then the following day, take them out, put them in a container or a Ziploc bag, and there you go. They are going to be ready for you in the future when you decide you'd like to have a potato gnocchi meal. This should give us enough that we can cook up and mix with our pesto. So exciting. All right, same thing. We'll do a few more with the fork. All right. If the gnocchi is sticking to your fork, put your fork in some flour. We're just going to put a little bit of flour so they don't stick together. Okay, taking a picture. Okay, the water is boiling. Oh, hello, Cleo. Now there's our gnocchi. I'm going to bring this up a bit. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I have a medium heat here. So I'm going to grab the gnocchi and you're going to drop in. This is a good quantity that we have here, like a handful of gnocchi pieces is a really great quantity to put in at once. You don't want to overcrowd your pot. Now, what happens at first, if you're familiar with having cooked even other things that you might boil first, like even pierogies or dumplings, everything just floats right down to the bottom. And then we need to wait for them to pop up to the top. And once they do, that's the sign that it's almost cooked. 20 more seconds once they float up to the top, and then you can take them out. And that's how fast it is to cook these. So once you add the gnocchi though to the pot, the temperature of the water will need to temper again. I have it on medium heat. It's starting to bubble. I'm going to show you. So the water is starting to bubble, and there is the gnocchi bathing in the water. You might have to turn up your temperature a little bit. So now we have a couple of gnocchi pieces swimming to the top, and they're all coming up now. Okay. Now at this point, when the gnocchi is cooked, boiled, you can choose to eat it at this time with the pesto or the tomato sauce, or there's a couple of other ways that we really love. I can't seem to find my slotted spoon. I had one, it's not around. So I'm using the next option. Sometimes you just need to improvise. And so I have one of these baskets. A sieve would work too if you had to, so that I can reach in there and grab all of the gnocchi pieces. I'd like to show you how to pan fry the gnocchi. A nonstick frying pan is ideal. I've added a little bit of butter already to the pan, and the butter adds this beautiful flavor. Now you can certainly use coconut oil, you can use olive oil. If you have some sage, it's really lovely to add some sage to the butter as well, a couple of leaves. But if you don't, because today we're going to put the gnocchi in. Today we're going to be adding pesto to the gnocchi. I'm going to wash my hands while you watch the gnocchi for me, please. Okay, I'm back. Now we want the gnocchi we want to start seeing a little bit of brown. We also don't want the heat too high because then your butter will burn. One of the critical things about using butter. A little bit of a brown butter is okay, which is what happens when the butter is cooked for a little bit on a higher temperature. but brown butter on purpose adds really lovely flavor too. I'm starting to see, oh, things are starting to grill nicely. So I'm keeping this temperature at a medium temperature. Let them do their thing. As soon as the gnocchi's brown on one side, we're gonna, oh, look at that. We're starting to see, oh, some lovely brown. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna take a picture. And this lovely brown texture, which will add a ton of flavor, a little crispiness. This is ready, actually. Oh, look at the beautiful gnocchi. So this is where you have options for what you want to do next. We made the pesto, so we can use the pesto. At this point, you can add this right away. A little bit of pesto, and then we're going to mix it all up. You can choose to add at this point in time either some nutritional yeast or a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top. There we go. Perfect time to add it on so it's nice and melted. Look at our gnocchi. Look at how gorgeous that looks. What an achievement. Love. If you've never had gnocchi before, you might fall in love with gnocchi because they're soft and pillowy, and that's the texture you're looking for. If it's a little more dense, it's only because maybe a little bit more flour was thrown in or you used a different kind of potato, right? But it's still delicious. And it's still delicious even after you freeze it too and cook it up. And so there we go. This concludes our cooking for today. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to our question and answer period that we'll have a chance to do together live. This was a great, such a great activity. So again, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for doing all that you can to reduce your food waste and find other ways and alternative ways to use everything from roots to shoots. Bye for now.
Okay. No problem. Hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope you enjoyed that video. I have Chantal here now with me, who live.
Hello.
And
So
she
good to see you.
will be happy to answer all your questions. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat and we'd love to go over them.
Yes.
You want to say anything?
How did you enjoy the recording? Was there something that you needed to know more about? Do you have any questions about anything? What did you learn? Was there something you learned that you didn't know? That's always a cool thing.
It usually takes a minute or so to
Of
type
course.
up your question.
Which we understand.
But that was so informative. Like,
so cool. Thank
so
you.
Cool.
In the meantime, I've got a question for you, Chantal.
Oh, hi, Jess.
Did you ever find out what the name is of that wooden tool that you use for to make the gnocchi?
No, but we can
ridges?
Google now. We can Google like right now.
Yeah.
And we'll find out what it's called because it's like got it in my head, but I can't really remember. Because I've never thought of pan fry gnocchi. That's so cool. Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna make sure I see all the questions.
It's a gnocchi paddle or a gnocchi board.
A gnocchi board. Well, that's the other, but there is a name for it too.
Is that it?
Oh, I don't understand. The name of it doesn't look familiar to me. Oh, so Doris, you explained why the potatoes need to be rice. Thank you for that. Because see, here's the thing, you all have wisdom too, right? And you may have made some of these things and have your own experiences. So it's really great to share those things. So Kimberly, you said you never thought of pan frying gnocchi. Yeah, honestly, it's the only way I'm willing to eat it now.
It is, since we had it with
Yes.
Chef Maxine, it is like, I never actually enjoyed gnocchi until that day. It's so
It
good.
was all about Chef Maxine. I told her the other day that it's because of you that we've made this in all of our classes. And so I'm so glad that it came to us the way that it did. I've wanted to try to make gnocchi for a while, feel confident to try now. Oh, that's so cool. So great to hear. I learned so much. I've never been much of a cook, so I appreciate all of your tips.
Oh, that's amazing.
But
And
yeah,
the
left potato skins. Oh, yes. In fact, that evening after I did this recording, I had to put the potato skins together because everybody was hungry for something. I'm like, okay, potato skins it is.
Chantal, I'm
Um,
seeing Sharon is asking, if you do not have a food processor, is there anything special to do to make it work better in the blender?
For the pesto, so you need lots of patience and just know that you can do it in a blender. The one thing, I used to have a Vitamix blender until it died, and it had the tamper, the piece that can go into the hole at the top to push down the contents. That's the key thing when you're making pesto in a blender. You need to be able to push down the contents so that it keeps moving around. The other thing is you might want to add the oil a little bit sooner because it'll get a little frustrating as you're making the pesto mixture, blending up the seeds, and if you've got those in there, you'll need to add a little bit of oil as it's mixing, and then you'll have greater success. It does take a little bit of patience though. Does that answer your question? Just let us know that it does. And if it doesn't, we'll see what else I can come up with.
And can kale go into pesto?
Yes, kale can go into pesto. On its own, kale on its own is really powerful. It's very strong green vegetable. So you want to mix it with something else. So if you want to add, I always find a little bit of parsley with kale is nice. Basil, parsley, kale is a good combination. On its own, it's really powerful though. I wouldn't do it on its own.
Right. And you can
What
do
did you-
cheese, or
Yeah, you can add.
you can do like a Parmesan cheese or a nutritional yeast, or you don't need to actually add any kind of component like that
Not
at
even.
all, really, right?
I leave mine cheeseless at home, and then if we want to add those things afterwards, if you're making something where maybe you want to add your pesto to regular pasta and you'd like to add a little cheese to the pesto, then you can do it then. But if you keep your pesto nice and clean, you don't need to add all those things right away.
Right.
For sure. Because then you can freeze your
just-
pesto little cubes too, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. There's so many things to say
I know.
when you're making this. But that's what I do when I make the pesto. I put it into cubes in the freezer and then pop it out as I need them. If you make lots of pesto and you're like, we're not going to go through this in 2 weeks or up to 10 days.
Do you have to get nutritional yeast at a health food store?
No, I'm going to tell you the best place to buy nutritional yeast is at Bulk Barn. It is the best price point as well, because then you can buy the quantity that you want. And that's where we always get it. Of course, we can't bring our jars in now, but we would bring a mason jar, have it weighed, and then go fill it up, whatever you'd like in there, and then pay for your nutritional yeast. Yeah.
At the bulk stores, that's a really, really great thing. I mean, due to COVID right now, we can't bring in our own things, but that's a really great way to reduce waste and be able to buy in bulk. Yeah,
Exactly.
at a good cost point.
And if you can still buy it at a health food store as well. Some grocery stores will have it, like Superstore.
Yeah.
The Bob's Red Mill, that brand.
Yeah.
Will have nutritional yeast.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight the photos at the end. The 2 little nubs of the potatoes was all that was left from what you had cooked, right? And that's pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. You know what? It was like it was an awareness even for me. Like I'm mindful of what I'm doing with my scraps and all of that, but it was like seeing that I'm going, that's it. Hang on a minute. It was afterwards I thought, you know what? We forgot one thing, half a lemon.
I was just going to say,
half a lemon. Did you see?
Yeah.
Half a lemon and those little 2 pieces. So it wasn't completely true.
But you know what?
Almost.
With the half a lemon, you can just put vinegar and the lemon in a mason jar. You can put orange peels, you can put lime peels, and you let it sit in a mason jar for a little while. And then you have one of those spray bottles. You just do half and half water and the vinegar orange mix or lemon mix, and it smells great, not like vinegar. And it's an amazing cleaner for the kitchen for after you're finished.
See? Marissa's got it all gum. That's so cool.
Yeah, I
haven't done
have it
before.
sitting under my sink.
See, we're always learning about all those things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
juiced an orange. That's right, I did earlier. And then what
It
I
goes in the
tend to
vinegar.
do, well, I didn't even do that, but what I tend to do with peel is, because I like adding peel into muffin batters, loaf. So I took the peel of the orange and I dehydrated. So I have a dehydrator, or I stick it in the oven at low temp whenever I'm cooking something else, and then it dries up the orange, and then I pulverize it, grind it up into powder.
That is so
That's
good.
what I did
That's
with the
such a
orange.
great
Because I
use.
love adding that to loaves and muffins and other things where you want the orange essence.
How long would it
Yeah.
last?
Oh, it lasts a really long time. As long as it's dehydrated fully, that there's no moisture in the
Mhm.
peel, then you're fine to store it in a jar. I have a jar in my spice cabinet of lemon peel, and it's been in there now for a few months.
And
it's fine.
You can do that with lime and orange too.
Yes, you can do any citrus.
Yeah.
Even grapefruit. I haven't done it with grapefruit. Grapefruit's not something I usually buy, though.
Me
so
neither. It's too bitter.
It's too bitter. Come on.
I like sweet.
You have to get used to the bitters.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
I wanted to share, Stephanie in the comments shared that Earth Market in Newmarket is still doing bring your own containers, and they sell you nutritional yeast. So thank you so
Oh,
much. Stephanie.
amazing. Earth
Yeah.
Market.
Thanks for sharing that.
I don't even know
And
about that.
My question for you, Chantal, is we saw the picture of the potato skins at the end. So what did you end up doing with it? What did you put in there?
So we had some leftover ham. And then, so my husband cut cubes of ham, and then, or maybe it was pork. Actually, it was pork. Pork cutlets. So we cut the pork cutlets, added some shredded cheese, garlic, salt, pepper. And then didn't even add any onions. That was it, actually. You could have put a little onion powder. And at the bottom of the potato skin, you wanted to have a tomato. So we put tomato sauce at the bottom of the potato skin, added the contents, popped it in the oven. That was it.
And just so everybody is aware, all of the recipes are in the chat, but we will be sending out a follow-up email. And in the email, you will have all of the recipes. You will have a link to rewatch the parts of the videos that you might want to check out again. And I think that there's a little survey for you just to let us know how we can improve these videos or what you liked or learned the most from the actual one that you watched. So that should come to you tomorrow or the next day. Okay?
That's really good. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie, for putting that information about Earth Market. I live in Newmarket, and I didn't even know about the Earth Market.
Oh, really? That's great.
So
Amazing.
cool. See, I'm
Well,
learning
thank you
something
so
from all of you too.
much.
You're welcome,
you.
Jess. Thank you to
Yes,
all of you for being present here today.
Yeah, we just wanted to do a big thank you to Doris for doing our back end. We wanted to say thank you to Chantal and
You're
Jess
welcome.
for getting this all together. Thank you everyone for showing up and participating. And just stay tuned. You can go to York Region yrfn.ca, which is York Region Food Network. And we have an events calendar, and you can stay posted on all of the virtual events that we do have coming up. And there are quite a few this month. So
To get us through the winter.
yeah.
We need to keep busy
Definitely.
in the kitchen. Amazing.
All right.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marissa. Thank
Thanks
you, Jess.
everyone. We're going
for the
to tune out.
opportunity. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Take care.